Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Dunigan.
And we're going back in time with a classic game here, with a good old-fashioned Metal Gear Solid 1 retrospect. And thought about it, we did do a Metal Gear Solid retrospect as a series. Remember back in the olden days when we used to just take an entire series and do a retrospect? Like we did it for Sonic the Hedgehog? Episode 5 and 6 represent.
Yeah, that's when we were still figuring out. Funny enough, though, I actually wasn't on the Metal Gear Solid retrospect. That was about, because there's that... When I first moved to the city, there was that little, 2 to 3 month period where I wasn't on the show, unless I was visiting, and I think that was, one of the first ones right there.
Oh, yeah, because that's before we did the Skype. See, I couldn't remember, because that was so long ago that I'm like, were you here at that time period still? And then we just get everybody over, because I remember there was a bunch of people on that one. I think that's, we had Cameron, and we had Josh, and we had...
RJ, probably.
RJ.
Kyle.
Yeah, there was somebody else on there, too, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And we were supposed to have Cameron today, and then somehow it didn't work out, but it's kind of those things where it's like, once I kind of play it, or once I kind of watch something, it's like, gotta go. It's fresh in my mind. I can't wait on it.
No, I get you. I actually went out and bought a PlayStation 1 Classic, or whatever they're called, for this. And plus, there's also some other classic games on there. Initially, because I don't have emulator on my computer or anything. I'm like, well, we were talking about doing this, and I can get it for this. And plus, there's already some other good games on this thing. And I just want to say this real quick. It was when I first initially went there, I was like, $100. I'll get back to you. Then I went back another day, wait, $65? Sold. Which I know that was not Sony's plan, but...
No, that wasn't their plan, sadly enough, too. Well, that was when I saw them on Amazon right before that, I was like, oh my god, it's only $60 on Amazon, and then I was able to get it for $50 flat on there, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. And then the coolest thing about it, too, I know the PlayStation Classic, it's not a perfect one, and I know that's where people kind of bitch and moan about it, but once you kind of add the emulation stuff into it, too, it's dude, it's everything you could want in a PlayStation system. You know what I mean? I haven't seen a single game that doesn't play well on there. Granted, I probably have only tested out another 25 games, but all those 25 games ran perfectly smooth and, no problems whatsoever.
Yeah, so first full-on retro, because we do a lot of retrospects, usually movies, sometimes comics, and... This is the first one I think we've done actually a full-on just retrospect specifically on one game.
Yeah, not a series and not a... Yeah, because I guess all the other ones were series or they're consoles or they're something like that.
Yeah, and moving in, I want to say this real quick. I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, but my first introduction to Metal Gear Solid was Metal Gear Solid 2. Because my brother got it. My brother had a PlayStation 2. I had a Gamecube. And... Metal Gear 2 was my introduction to the series, and I was really, I was into it. It was one of those things. He got the game, played it for 10 minutes, never picked it back up. Then I went in there and I played it. Oh my god, this game is fucking amazing. Lale Low, Rover Ocelot, Liquid. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but this game's fucking amazing. And just going forward, I just fell in love with that game. And then I never played the original one. And then eventually they came out with Twin Snakes for Gamecube, and then I already kind of, just from friends who played the game, who told me the story and all that, I already kind of figured out most of the stuff. But then okay, so it's kind of, I get to play the original, but through Metal Gear Solid 2 gameplay style and all that. This game is awesome too. I fucking love this game. And so keep in mind, this is just kind of a warning, folks. This is someone who's never played the original before. I am fully aware of how important this game is, what a landmark it is, and how this game is brings a lot of nostalgic memories, brings a lot of nostalgia and a lot of happy memories. I fully am aware of that, and I understand this game totally changed gaming landscape as well as storytelling in video games. So that doesn't mean I disliked it or hated it, but it's also one of those things some aspects don't age well. I'm sorry. We'll get into that as we go on.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. Well, it's like Twin Snakes is my all-time favorite Metal Gear Solid game. I love that one. And granted, see, I played the living daylights out of the PlayStation version. And then when Twin Snakes came out, it was almost never really went back to the PlayStation one. It was just if I want to play Metal Gear Solid 1, I went to Twin Snakes. And a lot of times, when I sat down and played Twin Snakes, I'd play it 2 or 3 times over, every single time I went back to it, like multiple times, it's like that's how much I'd get into it and how fun it is. And always the second round of Metal Gear Solid, you always realize how actually short the game is when you start skipping the cutscenes and the codec scenes.
Oh yeah, well, another thing about Twin Snakes, I think that's my second favorite Metal Gear game. First favorite is Metal Gear Solid 3, but second is probably Twin Snakes. But there's one little thing about Twin Snakes, and I totally get it. It's because they're trying to be what was hip and was cool at the time. I forgot the guy's name.
The guy who did Versus.
The guy who did Versus, yeah. Richie Ranat, I remember he was like a big upcoming Japanese action director at the time, and he directed Versus, which that'd be a fun retrospect or a fun audio commentary. It's not a perfect movie, but it's just fun.
Yeah, I would love to go back to that. I would go find that movie to watch that again.
And then you got then he also did all the action scenes for the cutscenes in Devil May Cry 3. So there's this period where like, get this guy, and a lot of this shit was really cool and stylish, but sometimes it was that way too Dante surfing a missile like it's a fucking surfboard shit,
Well, yeah, and then Solid Snake almost does that too, because there's a part where like the Hind jet shooting the missiles off, and he literally like jumps and he like flips off one of the missiles and it flings over to the side, so on.
Well, it's one of those things like you see the shit they do in the cutscenes in the Twin Snakes version, and like, dude, if you could do this, you would have no problem. You'd be like Matrix running across the walls and like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragoning, like kicking people across the fucking room. This would not be a problem if you could do this in the actual game.
Yeah, I will say that is about the only thing about the Twin Snakes one is it's just like the cutscenes. They have just that almost a little too over the top, because that's the thing about when you play like the original PlayStation Metal Gear Solid. Pretty much for the most part, other than just a little bit of sci-fi fantasy strung on top, it feels very like, okay, this is a pretty realistic game right here, To
an extent, well, it's weird because essentially Metal Gear Solid, it feels like Tom Clancy met an anime.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's almost what I was thinking. It was like something like Tom Clancy, but if you just turned it up a couple notches, and that's totally you give it the anime kind of vibe. But I mean, for the most part, yeah, there is kind of something you can kind of like say like what's more realistic than not, but it's kind of a pretty realistic one. Then you see those Twin Snake ones, it's like, oh, okay, now we got like the over the top like John Woo type movie going on here.
Well, I guess when I first played Metal Gear Solid 2 for the first time, and I'm playing it and just watching the game, and then you first come across, say, Fortune. I'm like, wait, what? And then, like, okay, well, maybe it's just, like, some weird, like, science shit. And it kind of is science shit. It's like, oh, she has this little, like, deflector bubble thing around her. But then it's just like, oh, wait, no, she literally has those powers somehow. Or then you get to Vamp. Like, there's fucking vampires in this shit?
Yeah, because that's kind of where it starts just advancing. Because really, if you look at Metal Gear Solid 1, like the only person that really has, I guess you would say, like powers is Psycho Mantis. And go ahead. And I was just gonna say it's like, and his powers are really, I guess you could say that they're kind of like slightly just over the top, kind of like human powers. They're not so like superpower-ish. I mean, he reads minds and he's,
Well, I guess maybe we'll just go. Let's break down Foxhound member by member for a minute. So let's start with Psycho Mantis. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing, because Metal Gear Solid, it wasn't the first game probably, but it was one of the first ones to do it really well and be noted for it. Was to present its bosses and its different villains as fleshed out characters. And, it's a little, in retrospect, some of the dialogue and whatnot's really melodramatic, but I think for the time it worked and all that. But I gotta say, because I remember, like, thinking about Psycho Mantis and thinking of him as, like, a very sad, tragic character. And maybe if you, like, retold a Metal Gear story and fixed some things a certain way, it could be. But when I found myself playing the game this time, I was like, fuck you. Fuck you and your problems. I don't give a shit if your dad hated you because your mom died in childbirth. Fuck off. Because he's sitting there like, I am, he's like, ooh. I go like, looking like he just got out of a fucking Marilyn Manson concert floating around in the gas mask. Like, oh. And then like the second you change the controller port, he's like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? This can't happen. And then he goes on like, he just like has that whole like, I I never loved anybody. Nobody loves me. Yeah, good. Fuck you. Hope you fucking die.
Yeah, I always kind of wonder what happens if someone has like a broken controller port 2 in there. You know what I mean? And I also just wondered, like on the PS Classic, I was like, will the thing be able to recognize I put in the second port there? Because like, since it's kind of like USB, it just feels like it's any old thing. Because I know it's depending on how you plug things into that, you could kind of confuse it to what port's number 1 and what port's number 2.
Got another question for you. What about people who play that shit on the PC? What'd they do?
Oh shit, yeah, I forgot that there is a PC version of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck you do for that. I mean, if you got the emulator, you could just go up and swap your controls to the second player, but I don't know what the hell you do. They might not even have that in there. It might be just, they just pull that part out. They're like, fuck it.
Well, that was also part, like, one of the first things playing Psycho Mantis, because he's reading your memory card, but it'd be like, you like to play. I remember it
kind of sucks because like on the PlayStation Classic, I don't think there's any of the games on there for him to read. So it's like, you know, I mean, there's no Castlevania because I remember it's like, you like Castlevania.
It was Konami games that you named off a bunch of Konami. Wasn't that what it would do?
I think so, because I almost want to say he could mention it was like Castlevania, Contra. It wasn't Silent Hill because that wasn't out yet. And I think there's a couple other like kind of like odd ones, like almost like very Japanese games that like, well, you might have had this in the US, maybe.
I remember, well, they modified it to a much more broader like range and the Twin Snakes version, which is like, you're obsessed with Super Smash Brothers. He said that.
He just sits down like in that chair back there. Oh, God, how many fucking hours you gonna put into that game, huh? Huh? We got.
I'm surprised this disc is even in here.
he's like, here, go take that chair over there. There's just like one of those chairs, just like a psychiatrist one. He's like, we're gonna talk this one out. 320 hours, huh? Shit, the internet hasn't even been invented for video games yet. You put 320 hours in this so far. Who are you playing? How many friends do you have?
And why is it always on Final Destination with no items?
Yeah.
You one of those motherfuckers?
Are you retarded or something? I mean, it's 1998. I can say this shit. I mean, I guess it's Twin Stakes and so on, but whatever.
It's 2004 or 5 by then.
Yeah, by that point. And then in that game, too, what year does Metal Gear Solid take place? Isn't it 2005?
It's 2005, yeah. So, what? It's kind of like... That's weird, yeah. Because Metal Gear Solid takes place in 2005, and it came out in 98, and then... The remake came out in 2005, I think. It's just kind of like Neon Genesis Evangelion. The end of the world happens in 2015, and the remakes came out 2015, or the first one did. So it's one of those little kind of things.
Yeah, I want to say I think it came out 2003. I want to say it was a little bit earlier, because 2005 is kind of like totally the end of the GameCube run.
I want to say it was maybe I might be wrong, but I want to say it might have. I may be 100% wrong, but I think it may have been 2005 because I remembered that's when we started doing like. Just going off high school, because that's right when we started doing like the film class. I remember a bunch of friends, we were shooting like our first movie, and we were gonna go out like and do like this Blair Witch ripoff out in the woods, and it was raining, so like, well, someone just got Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, and we just kind of like spent most of the time to be filming just playing this fucking game, and that had to be 2005, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it was 2005, maybe 2004.
It's funny. That just reminds me of this kind of a weather incident for Metal Gear Solid. I remember when Metal Gear Solid 3 came out, and it was one of those ones when I was like driving everybody home from like high school and so on. It was like one of those days where it started snowing. It's like, fuck it, I'm going to the post office. We will die so I can get Metal Gear Solid. I have a good feeling it's going to be a snow day the next day, and lo and behold, it was. So I was.
So those are those glorious days.
It was like those kinds where it's like, oh god, it's getting shifty, it's getting slidey, and then you're like, okay, we can't full on stop, so someone's got to jump out and flip the hubcap so we can go to 4-wheel drive.
Well, that was like that shit. You'd be driving, you'd be kind of like,
go co-pilot, go!
As you're driving, and it's just getting a little unsturdy and a little like you're getting a little nervous. At the same time, like maybe there's no school tomorrow. Like you're really starting to swerve. Like I don't know if the snowplows can come this far out. I think we might have school off tomorrow. Oh fuck yeah! Stay on the road.
And it was like those ones like I am getting my Metal Gear Solid 3. There is no way I'm fucking stopping for this. People's lives will be in danger for me to get Metal Gear.
Snow days were magical just for like staying home and getting caught up on games like this. And so yeah, we got off topic for a second, but yeah, so fuck
Psycho Mantis?
Psycho Mantis. Fuck him. I don't give a shit if he has a fucked up face and his dad hates him. Fuck him. I'm glad he's
I like
dead.
that when like Snake pulls the mask off and just Meryl's like, oh, that's fucking gross.
Even in pixelated form, they're like, fuck, bro. Fuck. Because, in the Twin Snake version, he's all like, he's all way more detailed and all that. But that version, like, Jesus Christ. And
well, it just sounds funny. It's just like the guy's fucking died here. It's like, whoa, Meryl, you calm down. You keep that to yourself.
Well, no, there's even that part where he's all like, I never believed in anything. I just want to kill as many people as possible. You're a monster. Let him speak. He doesn't have much time. Go on. How many people do you want to die?
Hey, you want me to jerk you off while you're at the very end here? It's okay.
Yeah.
I understand. It's a soldier thing.
Because he said that one of the reasons he hated people is because he'd read their minds. They were always thinking about sex.
Yeah, he's like they always wanted to pass on their genes.
But not to me, because I'm not a pretty boy.
And they always want to pass it on to me. I just would lay out naked, and they would pass their genes onto my face. That's why it looks like the way it does. My father, hey, it's like, oh, God, you're not bringing your father into this, was you? He was the first one to pass his genes on.
Well, Hideo Kojima loves fucked up love triangles, so...
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure there's like maybe 2 or 3 more people somewhere in there.
Yeah, exactly, for his Psycho Mantis thing. Yeah, that's one of those battles. I think that's one of those ones, like, if you kind of put yourself in the context of, like, first time ever doing it, that's what makes that thing, like, a really magical scene, though. It's just the fact it's like, oh, shit, he's reading my mind. What the fuck? Campbell, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Or, I think one of a character that I still think holds up that, she's like the usual kind of femme fatale, Russian femme fatale character, but Sniper Wolf is a character who I think still holds up, and she has the whole thing of like, they have a lot of Warriors Code shit in this, which I understand, because it's a Japanese game, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, that's my favorite villain of them all is Sniper Wolf in there. I always think that's such a cool character, and even all the parts where you fight is always really neat. You got the first one, where it's always kind of that weird thing, like Meryl's down, you're like, Meryl, I'll be back! And it's just like, you go running out.
Don't go nowhere! You're fine!
I mean, you literally have to go, like, you're, like, really backtracking. She's probably like, oh, he fucking just left. He saw a sniper, he just ran.
I'm just gonna get the car and bring it around. I just have to get past the wolves. Don't worry about it. That's another thing. Getting past the wolves in this version is a little harder, because remember, the Twin Snakes, I was like, I don't want to kill the wolves, but Twin Snakes, I had the tranquilizer gun, so it made it a lot easier. This one is just like, looks like you got to kill some dogs, so you best know the layout of this little fucking cave thing.
Yeah, that's like super dark. Which I guess that's the one place that the night vision goggles are supposed to be used at. Because I kind of was thinking, I'm like, you get these night vision goggles, where the hell do you really use them at? I mean, that cave's not that dark, but I guess it would come in handy there.
Well, I noticed when you get her handkerchief, Wolf's handkerchief, it makes it easier because they don't attack you. But then it's just like, I can't use these 2 items at the same time. So you lose a handkerchief for a second, they're like, oh fuck,
Yeah, they're like, then you put it back up, they sit there all calm, like, put the handkerchief away. It's kind of like, when you have a dog and you put a hat on, it just freaks him out.
Yeah, exactly.
There's actually another way you can do it. Technically, you gotta still go through there once, but when you go there with Meryl the first time, and you get to that one area where there's like the puppy wolf, and it's like likes her. If you punch Meryl really quick, and then go into a cardboard box, the dogs freak out because you punched Meryl, because she whistles and like calls them over to you, and then the little dog pees on you, and then you can always go in the cardboard box, and the dogs like you after that point.
The funny thing is, there's no cutscene like, Snake, why'd you punch me?
Yeah.
Just to have a dog piss on you? Well, no. It's just the way of the warrior.
It's also like
That's how we say hi.
I also like it goes back to that Psycho Mantis part where he starts sending Meryl after you and stuff. He's like, I know what will be your weakness, the women. And you just take her and just chuck her over your shoulder. He's like, oh shit. He really doesn't care. He's just tossing her around like a rag doll.
Well, that's the first time when he does that, and you just like take a few swings at him, and he's just like, what? But how can you? You like women. It's just one of those things, like he didn't think that through. He has all these psychic powers, can read everybody's minds, but he didn't think that through.
It's because you're important too. He's like, you can't find out.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I played the game though, Metal Gear Solid though, I literally just shot Meryl. I'm like, oh shit, she's coming after me. She turned. It's like Resident Evil.
Well, that whole scene seems very Resident Evil-ish, just because of the room you're in. You're like in the CEO's office or whatever, and it kind of has that old mansion kind of look to it, and that part of the game's probably a little bit more horror focused than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's got that part there too, so I could totally see that.
And everything you throw, you just throw in old antiques, and after a while, you gotta do is just like duck down and kind of crawl. That's all you gotta do. He doesn't think to drop it down on you.
Yeah, you could just sit there like that, or I just like stand in the center and just spin around and go do 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 do. Oh, there he is! Pop up. Spin around the circle. Pop up.
Or he's just kind of like, oh, I forgot my telekinesis does not have a Y-axis, only an X-axis.
Oh, the old Psycho Mantis. What a goof.
And I'm glad he's dead. So I won't stop saying that. I really am happy. But then you get Sniper Wolf, and then you get Hal. Like, she's actually a good person when you get to know her. Like, yeah, she just riddled Meryl full of holes just to bring me out. So yeah, no, fuck you, dude. Oh, well, she's good with dogs. Yeah, Hitler had a dog too.
Yeah, come on, Hal. Shit. In any one of your Japanese animes, did you not see a character like this? Aw. Yeah. Well, one time she showed me her titties. She's like, I never showed you that. You're like, oh, well, don't mind. That was just the hole that was in your shower room.
He just goes back into stealth mode.
Yeah, just runs away.
Like, oh,
just super speeds away. It's like, what the fuck? You like Sonic the Hedgehog down here.
He can move fast when he fucking wants to.
Yeah, and then you have, sprained ankle, my ass.
I think it's kind of funny how they bring in Decoy Octopus and this aspect of, like, he is one of the other members. Like, oh, you fucking kill him before he has a chance to do anything.
Well, because it's like, if you read in the booklet, I remember, like, when you got the game originally back in the day, and you pop it open.
No one knows what he looks like.
Yeah, it's like, well, it had Decoy Octopus. It's like, nobody knows who he looks like. It's like, oh, shit, I wonder what's going to happen when I get to this guy. And you just learn later on, it's like, oh, Decoy. I think it's Vulcan Raven's the one that tells you that. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, yeah. As I'm dying here, I thought you should know, because this has probably been on your mind the whole time.
Well, I like how every villain, they either got to tell you their life story, or they got to give you a little bit of like, oh, by the way, that door over there will take you there. I shouldn't be telling you this, but I'm dying, so fuck
Liquid. You know what? If I'm dying, he's dying.
And then, there's, of course, Revolver Ocelot, who's my favorite Metal Gear Solid character, probably. I keep on forgetting he's a member of Foxhound, because I just think of him as this other... It's kind of so weird. The very first boss of the whole video game is essentially the main villain of the whole series.
Yeah, for the most part, he pretty much is. And it's kind of weird, because really, if you just take Metal Gear Solid 1 by itself, he's not really that big of a character. I mean, he's there, and he's got his moments and stuff, And I guess he is, no matter what, still like the right-hand man to Liquid. But it's really this like
literally.
And he loses his hand too later on and becomes
gets Liquid's hand.
I guess
literally the right-hand man to Liquid.
So he becomes that. But it's like as Metal Gear Solid goes on, that's what it becomes more and more of, is like adding in that Revolver Ocelot. It's just kind of interesting to see him in this one, because at first, he's just the first boss you find, and you run around that room while the president's sitting there like, oh. Just like how he's doing that the whole
time. Well, I'll say this. So this is one of those things where this game... This is one of the first things where I feel like I noticed like some of the trouble with like going back, because I'm used to just going first-person view and taking people out that way. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if someone was right in front of me, just a couple of taps of the action button or shooting button and take care of it. But this was like fighting Ocelot. I'm like, why is this motherfucker so hard in this version? I'm like, oh, okay, so because I would just run up to him and just unload, but then
he's gone by the
Yeah, and you don't really control how it goes. Like, oh, it's not really about aiming so much. It's more about being in the right area. He aims automatically, and then following him, letting the thing automatically follow him, and when there's an opening, shooting him that way. That was one of the first learning curves I had, like, playing this version, because I know it kind of already does that in the other versions, but I wasn't, like I said, I would usually just go to first-person view and take someone out most of the time anyway. Mm-hmm. So, or, we wouldn't be in a situation where they run around the corner where I just unload real quick like that. Like, fuck, he's already gone.
Yeah, because that's kind of how this one is. This one is just sort of like that's how it feels to me. It's kind of like it's like the simplified version. You know what I mean? Because you don't have it's like you can't pick up bodies. You can't go into first person to aim. You can go into first person to look, and that's pretty much just there to look for cameras and shit and see if a guy's coming towards you. And because some of those areas, it's like they give you kind of bad angles where it's like I can't tell what's coming after me.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's another thing with the game. So talking about just some of the things that did not age as well with this game, and there are moments. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's a moment where I text you. I was getting so frustrated. I was like, fuck this game, dude! Fuck this game! I'm fucking tired of this shit! I don't give a shit if you like it or not! Fuck this game! And then, like, I calmed down. I'm like, gonna get something to drink, I'm gonna come back. And then I just kind of, like, alright, you don't play it like the other Metal Gears, play it like something different. And then, like, okay, I gotta be a little bit more cautious. I can't, because that's the thing with the other Metal Gear games, they want you to be stealthy, but you can Rambo it if you want. This one, you can't Rambo, because I remember seeing, like, a guard walking, when you first get out of, like, you know, the swimming hole or whatever, and you're coming after that guard.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just, like, you know, doing the tumble and roll, knocking them out, and then going from there. But now in this one, just being like, oh, can't do that. I just crawl in front of them now. Like, oh, fuck, you know?
I miss the roll. That's like the one thing. It's like, I almost say I can go without the first personness, but the one thing I feel like I really miss when playing the original one is like, I love the roll. I don't know what it is. There's something so great about like running up to somebody and just rolling into them like fucking Sonic the Hedgehog and then just keep going.
Well, it also does that thing of like where, because that also became an attack. Another thing it does though is, you said like cameras positioned poorly. Like, what would happen? I don't know. Just going off my memory of other games, I feel like villains or like enemies, they'd come at you if the alarm went off. They would come at you from a certain area, so you knew where they were coming from, and you could still get overwhelmed and get fucked. This one, somebody sees you right off the bat, or even if it's something like they like, you know, like you didn't choke them right or something like that, they respawn right off the camera and just come in at you. So it makes stealth that much more necessary for this game. It makes it that much more harder. And sometimes it'll be that one of those things you walk around like it does, for some reason the camera at times just does a thing where it's kind of like looking through, like it looks like you're looking through a peek hole for some reason. I don't know why. But sometimes it does that. It looks like you're just looking through a little hole in the wall, even though that's not what the case is. And then a camera, like a camera with a gun mounted, is right off screen and just fucks you.
Yeah. When they always place those in such like weird locations. You know what I always thought things kind of weird though? Is why do the gun cameras not sound the alarm? Just out of curiosity. I mean, like that would really suck if they did. I'm kind of glad they don't, but
it's probably one of those things like you don't want to insult. You know, I understand it makes sense if they sound the alarm, but we're already fucking him by putting it in the most ridiculous area possible that he's not going to think to look, because it'll do that kind of shit like you just run down like this long hall with nothing at all, and then with no warning.
There's a fucking gun turret.
Yeah, well, sometimes sometimes you can kind of see it, like if you just go in cautiously, you can see it, but other times there's literally no way to know until you walk in there and then just get gunned down, you know?
And I think the way that they want you to sort of play that game was that you used the triangle button quite a bit, and you always looked around, or you did the thing where you went against the wall and you could kind of look over and see a different angle. I think that's what they really wanted the whole time for that game. And it's just one of those ones like you're just not used to it, because like in the other Metal Gear Solids, the camera's mostly moving, and or like, you know, I think in Twin Snakes and in Metal Gear Solid 2 you can do the thing where you use the right joystick or the C stick to like shift the camera just ever so slightly. Because there is points where like the camera's almost like you're running and like the camera's for some reason behind you, which clearly I don't need anything behind me. I would really like to see where I'm going.
And then somebody just like shoots you like right there, like off screen, you know?
Yeah, so it's got a little bit of like that kind of stuff. I mean, for the most part, like I feel like I could still go back to this one control wise, and I'm not that thrown off. I mean, I just because it doesn't play that much different than the other Metal Gear Solids. You're just kind of missing some of those bells and whistles kind of like moves, like the roll, you know, the first person aim. You can't do the hangs either, and any of those kind of cool stuff.
But I guess if you're a puss like me who grew up playing like the first time you played Metal Gear Solid 1 was Twin Snakes, I guess it's just in some ways it's just I guess a lot of those were staples to me at Metal Gear, so it feels kind of weird not having them. At the same time, I get it. It's one of those things. I'm not saying the game sucks. I'm not saying the game's bad, but some things just didn't age as well. And I think the camera angles, guns just around the corner with no heads up and no way you can see them, because For some reason, corners of your view were blacked out by whatever for no reason, like that kind of shit. Just
yeah, there's that kind.
I guess it's one of those things. If unless you really, for whatever reason, hate the Twin Snakes version, for whatever reason, if you really hate it, I don't know why. I don't know. I think there's not much of a reason to go back for this one unless you're just looking to be nostalgic. I think the better one is still definitely Twin Snakes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree too, because as I said, like Twin Snakes was the one. Once that game kind of came out, that was always my go-to for playing the original Metal Gear Solid story. And it's kind of weird because that's like at that same time period, you also have Resident Evil's remake and then the original one. But for some reason on that one, even though I love the remake of Resident Evil, don't get me wrong, I think that one's amazing, I still could go back and play the original Resident Evil like nobody's business. And I love that one. I actually, personally, that's probably my favorite Resident Evil of all time. So it's kind of weird how that one sort of is. Like, I almost still prefer the original there, but this one is like, Twin Snakes. The only thing that I like a little bit more in this one is I like the voice acting, because some of the characters just have different, like, voice actors in Twin Snakes. Like, Mei Ling, I like it when she's got, like, her Chinese accent.
Yeah, well, Naomi Hunter actually has a British accent in this, but I think it's the same voice actors. Like, nah, I'm losing the British voice in this one, in the remake.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's such a minor thing. It's kind of like one of those ones, it's only, like, certain characters that, like, have it, and it's like, oh, okay, that's not that big of a deal. But what I was thinking of before was how in, like, each Metal Gear Solid game, though, it's almost like, sort of like the alarm system. Each one sort of has kind of like a strategy of how you sort of, like, kind of decipher it almost. Like we're in this game, and I almost want to say in Twin Snakes as well too. The upside to it is when the alarm goes off, you can always turn it off by just running out the room and coming right back in, and everybody's back to normal again.
Like, oh fuck, you got away. Whatever.
Where, like, I remember in Metal Gear Solid 2, that was the one where, like, the alarm kind of stayed on for a couple of rooms. Like, you couldn't just, like, run away. But then what was also in Metal Gear Solid 2, though, is you could shoot their, like, communication devices, and they also had to do the thing, which this is what I love about that one, is they literally had to run away from you and go, hey, but I'd pull up my radio in time, so it gave you enough time to take them out, where in this one, it's just like they're instantaneously, the radio goes on if anything happens not right.
Yeah, that's what I did like about the Metal Gear Solid 2 and onward, is they see you, and they gotta get in time to grab their radio. If their camera sees you, you're fucked. But it was usually a little easier to spot a camera in those spots. There's never really a moment like, fuck, a camera saw me. It's like, okay, I usually see it coming. Like, this game has a better story, but I think Metal Gear Solid 2, it makes sense at their second go at it. But I think Metal Gear Solid 2, they kind of, because this is still when they're still trying to iron it out and still like, all right, how we do this exactly? How are we making this fucking thing, Where Metal Gear 2, they had more of an idea, like, all right, they kind of, like, improved it, they finalized a lot of things, and as far as just level design, and just to give you enough of a heads up that something's going to happen, but still make it hard and kind of, like, look for it, rather than just kind of, like, punish you, like, oh, fuck you didn't use triangle every time you walked in the room, so that's what you get.
Well, it was still kind of... at the same time, though, this is kind of something you forget about, is this game actually has, like, one feature in it that, like, is kind of radical for the time. I mean, like, some other games probably had it too, but I think in Metal Gear Solid first, when I kind of think about it, is the fact that whenever you get a game over, it just kind of it pretty much has, like, a sort of autosave, or a checkpoint even, of, like, the last room you entered in. Which, at that time period, most of the time, if you got a game over in a game, it was like, oh, did you save? No? Well, fuck you. Start the game over then.
Well, I guess there's a little bit of the talking to the audience thing, but then there's also a little bit of the, hey man, we know all the fucking little tricks and whistles. Like, don't, like, when Revolver Ocelot's torturing you, don't do the little, don't use auto fire. Otherwise, we will know. You can't cheat your way out of this.
I want to see what cutscene comes up when you try to use the auto fire controller.
He shoots you in the head.
Does he?
You realize he just shoots Snake in the head.
Okay, because I never had an auto, because PlayStation's kind of a weird system to have an auto fire controller for.
Well, it's also one of those things where that whole part where I didn't realize this, because for whatever reason I was like, how the fuck do I activate the ketchup when I try to fake my death in the other room, and it took me a second to, like, oh wait, I didn't activate it in time or whatever. Every time you go out to get tortured, the time bar lasts a little longer to the point you can't last it anymore. I realized that.
Huh, really? Because that was the thing, too, is I tried to activate the ketchup in this one, too, and I couldn't figure out how it did. I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it the other way, where I'll just go hide underneath the bed, and the guy comes and is like, where'd he go?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that one. Yeah.
Because I thought it was like, yeah, it's like I remember like in Twin Snakes, you just kind of lie on the ground and you activate the ketchup and it just bleeds on out.
And just to clarify, folks, if you've never played Metal Gear Solid and you're just like, oh, I just want to hear what these guys have to say about this game. What I mean is there's this part where you're in this jail cell. How the fuck do you activate ketchup? What? There's this part you're in this jail cell, and Otacon comes by and says, hey, I thought you were hungry. So he just brings you some ketchup and a ration. And then one of the ways you, like, the guy who's guarding you comes around the corner and you lay down, you pour the ketchup on the ground, and that was a pretty inventive way to do it back then too, probably. Just like, oh, I think it's like, blood or whatever. So, yeah.
Well, and that's always one of the coolest things about a Metal Gear Solid game, though, is the fact that, like, how many kind of different ways you can go about a situation, Mm-hmm. Like, it gives you, it's like, there's never just one way to kind of get out of anything, Even, like, when it comes to boss battles, like Sniper Wolf, it's like you expect to kind of shoot her with the sniper rifle, you know what I mean? But if you have some, like, leftover rockets...
Oh, I blew that bitch away.
And I don't know, there's something so gratifying about, like, shooting, like, the Stinger missile launcher at her. It's like she's expecting this, like, grandeur, like, sniper fight. You're like, fuck that. I just fought
that bitch.
I just fought a helicopter. No. Guess what? I'm locking on to you.
Yeah, no, that's one of those things where... Because when that first happened, initially, once you get the Sniper Wolf fight going, it's like, okay, once you actually start sniping her, it gets easy. But... it's initially a little hard at first just to get the right position, just because it's really relentless. It's really merciless. And she'll just unload until you're dead, basically. So it's hard finding that good position at first where you can get it where you can still see her, but she can't see you that well. So that's the first thing that's kind of hard to do. But once you get there, it's like, okay, now I can take her out. But then another time, though, I was like, you know what? I'm like, I got these missiles. I got this, like, remote-controlled missile. I'm like, oh, fuck, yes. She wants a noble death. Fuck this bitch.
Wait, did you use the Nikita launcher on her instead?
I used that, yeah.
That's even cool. Was there a place to hide? Because that's always the downfall of Nikita.
Yeah, I totally droned the fuck out of her.
Because that's always the downfall signs of Nikita launchers. It leaves you kind of open for a moment, but, like, if you can find a place to hide, it's, like, the greatest thing.
Well, she knew where I was, but for whatever reason, I saw that the little, like, laser thing was on me. But using the Nikita launcher, she never fired at least the corner I was at. She never fired at me. Maybe she's like, "Is that a fucking missile coming towards me?" So she was a little like, because I would just see the little laser beam, and I'd follow the laser beam like, "I got you, bitch."
Yeah, I'm coming for you. Yeah, because it's like, I love using that, like, especially there's that part where, like, there's that long hallway before you go to fight, like, Liquid in the helicopter or whatever, and there's those guys standing out there. Those, like, I guess, I don't know, it's kind of like the super soldiers, the guys that take, like, a buttload of bullets to always take down. They don't just go down in a couple shots like everybody else. And I just went over the corner, I'm like, yep, here you guys go, have some presents, have some missiles coming at you, and I like how they just stand back up, like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, when you go against those genome soldiers, those guys... Because every so often you get cornered by him, like, there's a part where you're getting the elevator and, like, and Otacon's all like, all right, well, it's so weird because I have 5 of my camo suits, and so that should mean there's 4 left. I know fucking math. This is the first fucking grade, Otacon.
I'd slap the shit out of you if you weren't over Kodak right now.
Just actually, a matter of fact, when we're done with this, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna put this whole thing on hold just to bitch slap you. No, wait a second. They're in the elevator with you. They're in the elevator. And then you got like that part. The first time was like, it's weird because you have to unload on them a lot, and it's more of like just the dumb thing of like one of them firing at you that makes it hard. But if you can get one of them like in a headlock and snap their neck, then it gets easy.
That's always the real fast way to do it. Because on that, I will say, like, my one little complaint to going back and playing this one, it's like the FAMAS. That gun, it's like, that's such a pain in the ass gun to shoot. You know what I mean? Because it's weird. It's like, okay, you guys, you're ready. You're so calm. At least it has that nice aiming system where it locks on and it's got the laser and you can spin it around, and it's really easy to get that one to work. And that always works great. But the FAMAS is just like, you either like shooting, and then it's like you could be trying to point like at a guy, and it's like if you're not close to him, it's like you're shooting at like the diagonal angle he's at, but you're not hitting him. It's going like right next to him, and you can't really get that nice aim in there. Now, granted, I will say, like, I was playing with the old-fashioned PlayStation controller, so I didn't have the joysticks. I'm thinking
same thing here.
I'm thinking that wasn't helping my cause. This is one of those few games where it's like, I love that original PlayStation controller. I think that's one of the coolest things about the PlayStation Classic is I love having that controller in my hands, because I remember just getting it for the first time and it's like, shit, when was the last time you held this exact controller, like this style? You know, and I thought about it, I'm like, dude, it probably was like 1996. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's been a long time. You know, and that's like when people would come over, like, I remember I gave that to Kyle. I'm like, dude, when was the last time you held this controller? Not just a PlayStation DualShock or something like that, like this controller. And it feels real comfortable and cool. But there's just a couple of moments like that, and sometimes kind of snipering, because sometimes you'll get that where it's like, okay, there we go.
Well, there's also that thing of like when you first sniper, and it's like, all right, where the fuck am I? I'm getting shot. All right, I can't see where the fuck I am, what way I'm aiming.
It's like, don't zoom in until I figure out where she is.
Exactly. So there's some of that shit, and I get it. This is probably, their first outing for this kind of game like that. So I get all the reasons why. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I mean, I was cursing and swearing at the game as I was playing through it, but... And deep down, I know that, like, all right, well, at the time, this is kind of all they really had to go off of, and it's still a pretty remarkable game for when it came out.
Oh yeah, well that's how because at first I remember when you were having all these troubles with it, like I was playing the beginning part, I'm like, it really just feels just like regular Twin Snakes and so on. It wasn't until I got to some of those later parts that I was like, oh fuck, god damn it, especially like. When I got the, liquid, like, all fucking, like, not the Hind D, because that battle's not bad at all, but, like, some of the...
Hind's easy.
Some of the other liquid ones, it's like, dude, I do not remember these being so fucking hard. Like, especially, I don't remember being hard when I was a kid, and I don't remember being this hard on Twin Snakes. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, even Twin Snakes, because I'll say this, it's been so long since I played Twin Snakes, but I've played plenty of Metal Gear games, other Metal Gear games. I think I'm going to get back into it. But I was just having trouble with the tank. At first I'm like, oh, I just gotta do this, and then I'm all right. Okay.
Were you doing it where like you were throwing the chaff grenades first, and then you went
throwing the chaff grenades first, and then trying to just remain close to it, and then throwing the grenade in there. But there's a few times where I was just so close to killing him, but then something stupid would happen, and it happened like 2 times in a row. I was so close to killing him, and something stupid would happen. Like I'd throw the grenade, and then like in mid throw, I get shot. The grenade doesn't go anywhere. I just drop the grenade, explodes next to me,
kills you.
The tank like backs up and runs me over. It's like, oh, of course,
Well, you know what's the other thing too I thought about? What makes these like early parts kind of tough in that game that's not in Twin Snakes is Twin Snakes you start off with the full size health bar, and this one you have you level up, and it's kind of weird because at first it's like you pretty much go down like 2 or 3 hits, and it's like you just started playing this game, you know what I mean? Especially I just remember like when this game first came out, and it was like a buddy John Bubgunner brought this over, and like I just remember playing just like the bottom, like I mean like as a kid you could just hang out like right when you come out like the water right there, and that in itself was already like what the fuck, sneaking around. Like the idea of sneaking around in a game, it's like I know it existed in other stuff, but like for the most part as a kid it's like I've never played a game like that before.
Well, there's also just I kind of had I got so used to playing Metal Gear Solid games, I didn't get scared sneaking around anymore. I was just like, this is just what Solid Snake does. And, it's actually even kind of fun just to brutally murder him and just move on to the next room. Where this is one where just like, no, bitch, you really got to sneak. Because this one, it really punishes you if they see you. Especially the thing where they see you, they elbow you, then Solid Snake just flips right up 360 in the air, lands on his back, and I know this is a Metal Gear Solid thing, but it just annoys me, okay? They could knock you on the ground and shoot you on the ground and just, fucking basically gangbang you right there, and you can't fucking do nothing about it. Where you can knock them on the ground, but you gotta wait for them to get back up and then see you and then sound the alarm.
Again.
It's like, yeah, so it's like one of those things like, oh, come on. You mean to tell me you can't auto-aim to his fucking head while he's on the ground? So he's like, nope, sorry, no, there's only an X-axis, no Y-axis.
I know, well, because that's always kind of the nice thing about number 2 is like, oh shit, I can shoot the living daylights out of these guys while they're on the ground. Because that was almost like one of the best parts is like throw the guy.
Just flip him over, or just like flat out like Kill Bill him in the head.
Yeah, exactly. So that's always kind of cool there.
That's, by the way, that might seem like a weird reference, but I'm thinking of the part where Bill shoots Uma Thurman. That's the part I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and then it's like it's the other thing too that I still can't really figure out, because I remember like you said this initially when you were starting up. You're like, dude, how the fuck do you like grab the guy sometimes and have the alarm not go off? And at first I was like, oh, okay, I'm not having a problem with this. And then all of a sudden it's just like every once in a while you just get a guy. It's like, how does the alarm go off? I grabbed him from behind across the neck. Like what triggered that alarm? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I noticed sometimes you got back to me, and by then I kind of figured it out. But the thing is, if you have to run up behind them, stop running, and then grab them by the back of the neck, and you can snap their neck that way. Because I just went old Metal Gear games. It was just easy to go snap happy on motherfuckers. But this one, it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, you can't be moving when you grab them from behind. But at the exact same time, naturally, you want to be quick. You want to be, so it's only just natural just to want to move, grab the guy, kill him, and just move on to the next thing.
Well, because the weird thing is though, it's like, okay, because mostly when you're moving, you flip them. If you're like holding forward and you clicked square, you'd flip the guy. But in this one, even if sometimes you stop and grab him by the neck, it's like, I don't know, it just feels like sometimes the alarm goes off, sometimes it doesn't. But it's kind of like annoying because it's like almost like that thing where, is it worth grabbing the guy and trying to snap his neck, or is it best just to kind of like wait for him to walk by and then just keep going and just not work?
Metal Gear 1 seems like one where it's almost better just to move on and not try to kill as many people.
Yeah, exactly. Which is not, because Metal Gear Solid 3 was the one where it's just like, you could kill every single person in your fucking way, it doesn't matter. It's like, that's the game that goes full Rambo.
Well, Metal Gear Solid 3, plus there's the part where you have like the nightmare vision where you're walking through like that river of death and you have all the people you killed coming by. And it's supposed to make you feel bad. Like, I felt accomplished.
Yeah, I was just like, shit, I had to spend like 20 minutes down here. Well, that's why I always kind of wondered, though, because I don't think I've ever played, because Metal Gear Solid 3 is kind of the game where it's not really made, I mean, I guess you could do it, but it's like, it feels like it's not made to be one where you just literally sneak by everybody and not kill things. I feel like there's so much great joy in killing people in Metal Gear Solid 3. And the other thing, too, is because they had the best feature in that one, because, you know, in Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, Twin Snakes, all those ones, like, if a guy sees you and starts running away, the best thing you got is you can maybe flip the guy over and then keep going and try to leave the area or something like that. Where in 3 was just like, you go like, even if the guy's looking at you, it's like, get the fuck over here. You grab the guy, spin him around, put your, knife up to him, speak. And then if the guy, doesn't want, or if you don't like what the guy has to say, just fucking slash his throat. And I remember even like on the PS2, like the one thing that was kind of nice about having that version was that like they utilized like the pressure sensitive button, so you could really like just push down that circle button and be like, yeah, you fucking like that.
Well, it was just fun. Well, plus, I don't see Big Boss being, because, people forget that one's a fucking prequel. You're not playing as Snake, you're playing as Big Boss. Mm-hmm. Big Boss becomes the villain, so I don't see Big Boss being like, I'm going to let this one get away.
Yeah. Where it's like, it sounds kind of weird, like in Twin Snakes, like I love playing that game where like I almost don't kill anybody, I just use like the tranquilizer gun, like I'm totally fine, I don't know what it is, like in that game it like works really well, because it's like, okay, I'm just gonna trank these guys, sneak on through, you know what I mean?
What was funny, plus when you get it for the first time, you get the trank gun, you could see where you shoot them, so it's just fun to just shoot the guy right in the dick.
I know, this is like hanging out there.
Going back to Metal Gear 1 for a second though, when I first played this game, Twin Snake version, I should say, just for a second, I remember like, all right, you gotta go find Meryl. I'm like, all right, I'll go find Meryl. And I don't even think anything. It's like right after, she's in a disguise, like, I'm just like, going to the first person mode and just totally thinking, just gotta find Meryl, not thinking about the way she walks or anything, or she's in disguise. I thought something different would happen. Just walk in, I see some dude, I'm like, oh, this motherfucker's dead, and this motherfucker's dead. Then like, oh, he screams kind of different, and then it's like, Snake, what happened to Meryl? I'm like, oh, fuck.
It's like, well, she should have been dressed like a guard. Those are the people I kill. Come on.
I will say, going back in place, because in other Metal Gear games, by then the graphics were good enough to where you could tell, like, all right, this is supposed to be an attractive character or whatever. But this one, it's kind of funny because they'll have moments where characters are trying to be sexy or seductive, but they're all fucking just a stack of blocks, So
well, the weird thing too is like, I think about that when I was a kid though, and it's like that wouldn't even have crossed your mind back in the day. You'd have been like, oh shit, dude, check out this graphics.
We're spoiled now.
Yeah,
because it's like one of those things like. There's a scene where Snake comes across Meryl and she's in like her underwear, the tank top, and he's just like, oh, you often sneak up on girls, huh? They have a whole conversation where she's basically in her underwear for a second. And as a kid, I've been like, oh, dude, check it out. And now, well, first off, I hope you're not doing that with a video game or a movie if you're like in your 30s, but at the exact same time, it's one of those things where now it's just so rigid. It's, remember how like Laura Croft, who's like, dude, she's so fucking hot. And now she's just like, oh, dude, she's a bunch of blocks, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's how it was, though. It's like, I always use that where I tell people, it's like, I remember when Sega CD, seeing that for the first time. I kid you not. Like, I thought that was like, dude, it was just like real life. That's how I saw it in 1993. I was like, dude, we're there. Real life, dude. It's like I'm actually in the TV show. It's like I'm in Power Rangers right now. And then you go back, it's like it's super compressed onto like a CD, and it's like, you know, it's blocky and all kinds of stuff. But it's weird how like almost like that's one of those ones. Like I don't know if it's like maybe like just at the time period, like when that's like the best of the best. Like your brain's just like, oh, dude. It's practically like real. It's like it's weird how that kind of is, you know what I mean? Or it's like I remember playing Shenmue for the first time, and you look at that game like back in 2000 on Dreamcast, it was just like, dude, how much more real could it get than this? You know, now you look at now, it's not that it looks bad, it's just, you know, it's total like, you know, old school type graphics and so on. But it's funny how just like there's at a time, because I was even like when I was playing this again too, I'm like, man, I remember playing Metal Gear Solid when I thought that these graphics were like so slick. I think, and I will say the other thing though too, is I think playing it on like a modern TV with like, you know, either the TV being larger, because, you know, back in the day, it's like you're probably playing the game on like a 22-inch TV. You know, it was a CRTV, so like, you know, that's going to make those graphics look that much better. You know what I mean? It's going to be smaller. The resolution will fit better on it. I think that's the thing. It's like the bigger you kind of get the screen and you take these games that have like low resolution in the first place, and now it's like extended out, you know, that doesn't help the cause either.
It's like shining a bright light on Danny Trejo's face.
It's exactly
it's like
that.
You see all the wrinkles and all the cracks and all that.
Well, it's like you think about like, okay, a PlayStation's resolution I think is 320 by 240, and then you got like a 1080 or a 4K TV, and you're like got the game playing on there. It's like, well, it's definitely expanded.
Well, it's yeah. Well, going back to what I was gonna say, just some of the quality of the game when it first came out. Playing this again, it's one of those things I realized. It was interesting because you have the characters kind of coming out being like, you know, this very anime-ish thing, like, I want to be close to my father, so I became a soldier in order to gain his approval and this and that. And then, you know, just like the whole thing of like, I can read minds and float around. And then you get like Naomi Hunter saying, oh, well, then like, they get in some interesting history. Like, they actually had to do some actual research, like, oh, well, my father was worked with J. Edgar Hoover, and they're like, no, that can't fucking have happened because J. Edgar Hoover was a racist. They didn't start that in New York. They started that in Chicago. That was in the 60s. Mm-hmm. They didn't get their first. She's half Japanese. They didn't get their first Asian agent until the mid 70s, and who knows if that's true or not, but I mean, it sounds true. Yeah, Master Miller says it in a very convincing voice, so why am I going to question him even though he's actually liquid?
Well, that's always like the fun part about Metal Gear Solid games, is that they always do kind of combine that like real history in there, and it's like it gives you that kind of feeling like for some stuff, because that's also that kind of thing, like what is real and what is kind of made up. You know what I mean? Because once you start mixing in real stuff with fake stuff, sometimes it gets hard to tell the truth between which is which.
Well, even that part when like one of my favorite parts of Relva Ocelot, when he's doing the torture and all that, he's just like, I'm not some KGB slug. I was with Spetsnaz. I was in Nigeria. He's going off like, I fought in Afghanistan. He's like saying like, you know, like real deep cut history shit. Like, oh wow.
Yeah, when it's also cool kind of going back and looking at this and all like the little lines that are thrown in there that, you know, if this was the first time you were playing this game, it would have bypassed you. But then when you start playing like Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, 4, and even 5, and you just see like, oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, there you go. That comes back around there, and that comes right about there. It's kind of like that small stuff in there. It's like, that's so cool. You know what I mean? I guess it's like, it's no different than kind of like, you know, Star Wars, and then watching that kind of come full circle way later on and so on, too. But those things are kind of just, those small things are neat. Now, when it came down to the torture scene, though, did you submit or did you fight for it?
Oh, I fought for it, of course.
You didn't want to get you didn't want to get the gay ending for the Otacon ending.
Hey, man, it's well, I mean, just, that had to be, now it'd be like one of those things, like, people be like, good for you, bro, good for you.
you chose, like, well, that's why I always remember this as a kid. It's like, you have to, you either get the woman or you get the nerdy guy. It's up to you. You're both going to ride off into the sunset on your snowmobile, but...
Well, it's one of those things where watching, yeah, like, nowadays it'd be like, awesome, man, awesome. Back then it'd be like, dude, this is don't ask, don't tell. You know, this is during that time. You're putting that in a video game? Children are gonna play this. well, it's not really a kid's game. They're still gonna fucking play it. We owe them a responsibility. Like, not really, no. Like, I think that Hideo Kojima just likes to push the boundaries on that type of shit. So I could see him being like, whether he believes it or not, I could see him just throw it in there. Why? It's gonna fuck with people's minds. They've been playing this macho ass badass for the whole fucking game, and then he gets on he rides off for the sunset on a snowmobile with the nerd, not the girl, the nerd.
I know, it's one of those, and I always feel like that's supposed to be like the true ending, because it's like in Metal Gear Solid 2, he's not hanging out with Meryl.
Well, teased it. It's like, did she die? Did she live? And oh wait, she's a Metal Gear 4, so she did live. But hey, it didn't pan out. I guess I don't really think that. I think that it's one of those things like, I honestly see Snake could honestly go either way. I could see him kind of being bi, possibly. But at the same time, I don't even think he's really that interested in sex. I think he's one of those guys, I live for the thrill of battle. Who could love a monster like me? He's like, he has that shit going on.
Well,
so
he's got like
the
Batman kind of crusade thing. Like, he's here for the mission, you know?
Well, Batman still takes the time to fuck.
Yeah.
But I think that Snake, I'm sure he has one hole or the other. I don't know which one. But at the same time, though, I can honestly see him just being one of those guys, like, being one of those things like, I'm a monster. No one should be with me. People around me die. So I could see that kind of going either way. I mean, I know they kiss, and if you say Meryl, they kiss. Mm-hmm. Do they kiss if he sees Meryl? I don't remember. I think they do, don't they?
I think
they're about to.
She might like kiss him on the cheek. This sounds kind of weird, but like back in those days, it was so rare to find a game where somebody actually kissed in it. It's so weird thinking that like that was. I feel like that was a very controversial thing, because I always think about like the Final Fantasy games too. It's like those ones as well. It's like you got these like love interest characters, and they just do that. Like, oh, you keep those borders there. You know what I mean? This is 1950s house. Everybody sleeps in their own separate bed. Damn it.
Well, it's also one of those things where it was. It's Final Fantasy, so all the characters, like the oldest character in the team is probably like, 17. It's like, did you guys kiss? We held hands. Oh!
Yeah, it's like, well,
all right, yeah, I know Sid or whoever, or Red 13's like 100 or whatever. Okay.
And shit, he's still alive after everybody else is dead.
But no, it's one of those things. I honestly think because when it ends, when Solid Snake story ends in Metal Gear Solid 4, he's like, look, I don't got a lot of time left. I'm just gonna go visit the world. Nanakon's like, well, I'm going with you. He's just like, it's not gonna be a pretty ending. Like, yeah, man, we've been with you this far. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, exactly, one of those ones. Because I think that's kind of how it is. Because really, like in Metal Gear Solid 1, to get the Otacon ending, I feel like that's kind of like, you almost gotta kind of force yourself to get that ending, because I feel like, to me, it's like one of those ones like, I ain't a fucking pussy, I ain't stopping like this torture, I'm gonna show him who's boss, you know what I mean? Like, the submit just seems like I gave up.
Well, the idea that you gave up on Meryl, because they say like, if you give up, we kill the girl. So you're just like Solid Snake being, I can't do it. It's like I have trouble imagining that. You know what I mean? And I don't want to see the cutscene of Snake saying, I sold Meryl out to save my own skin.
It's kind of one of those weird ones too, where it's like, if I would have never, because that's probably one of those things where I read about how to get that ending. Like, I probably would have, if nobody would have ever told me, I probably would never even known there was like this Otacon ending. I would have just assumed that, like, because it's like, why would you give up at that point? I mean, I know it says submit, but like that doesn't mean I'm gonna press that button.
Well, at the same time, they really nail home, like, hey, dude, just so you know, there's no continue. If you die right here, you fucking die. So you gonna, puss out, or do you think you're strong enough?
Well, then that's kind of thing too, and I always kind of wonder, because I've never like lost at that too. I wonder, does that literally just go full on game over, like no, like snake, like continued?
I don't think it goes that far back. I think it just maybe up to the point where you killed Sniper Wolf or whatever. Maybe the last point you saved it there, or if you manage to save inside the jail cell or something like that. Because actually, no, I can tell you, because I did die doing it this time around, because I waited too long to use the ketchup, or I messed up on that, so out of that I ended up went a third time or a fourth time in the stupid little like torture chamber thing.
That's so much torture.
And each time it got longer. The bar got longer each time, so it gave you more of a reason to like hey, do you just want to end it? Do you just want to submit so you can move on already? If you're too dumb to figure this shit out.
Yeah, well, okay. By that stand, that does kind of make kind of sense right there. I could totally see that. Because, yeah, it's one of those ones, if nobody wants to give it your first time playing the game, especially, too, like, and you're just in that jail cell, you're like, the fuck am I supposed to do here?
Yeah. No, it was one of those things, I just couldn't remember how to use the ketchup for a minute. Then, like, you have to lay down, and then you have to bring it open, then you have to hit circle when you have it selected. So, yeah.
See, because I tried it this time, and I couldn't get it to work. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going under the bed. I'm already here on the ground. I'm just going to crawl underneath the bed and die.
I thought I had to use the ketchup. I didn't think about going under the bed. Yeah.
You know, one of those things like that. But,
we didn't actually even talk that much about Gray Fox.
No, we didn't talk about Gray Fox. And Gray Fox is an amazing character. And that's a battle I actually really do always love. It's probably like, I remember that punch. And back in the day, because that's another voice that they changed him on Twin Snakes. Like, he feels like he's got like this, like, almost like a black guy voice on this one. I always think it sounds more cool.
He does. Like, I assumed he was a black, and then he opened the thing up. Like, oh, hey, what's up?
It's like a Darth Vader moment.
Yeah. No, I assumed when I first played the game. Well, actually, no, not when I first. I was trying to remember, like, is he black or something? I couldn't really remember that well. I'm like, oh, no, he's not.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, but it's kind of weird because he's got this really cool voice in it. And then he also, when he's calling you on, like, the comm, he's like, I'm Deep Throat. I'm going to give you these, words of advice, Snake, for a moment.
And then, like, from the Watergate scandal? Like, that kind of stuff. So more of just, like, little U.S. history they throw in there.
Yeah, exactly, like that kind of stuff. But, yeah, no, it's like, because that's one of those ones, like, really, like, Gray Fox that's such a cool character.
And the idea of, like, I mean, I'm sure there are things done before, but it was like I think Gray Fox really got to, like, the high-tech ninja thing going. Maybe if you look long enough in, like, anime and comics, you could find something similar to that, but I think that's the first time we saw Robot Ninja. Yeah.
I'll probably say, yeah, probably in mangas and animes they're probably there, but as far as, like, America kind of goes, that's definitely it. Because here's the thing, it's like, even animes and mangas were super rare at that point in 1998. Like, you know what I mean? There was barely in them out. Or if you had to find them, you had to, like, really hardcore find them, like, in catalogs and stuff. So that was probably, like, the big exposure to bringing that kind of character out and making that very popular for at least a while.
Well, plus the idea when you first see, like, he can, if you shoot a gun at him, he could deflect it with his sword?
Exactly. And there's that...
Like when you're a kid, when you first see that.
Yeah, and then there's that part, too, where it's just like, you go down that hallway, and he's, like, brutally murdered all those guys, which a scene that's really cool in Twin Snakes is when it shows that.
Mm-hmm. You gotta see him just absolutely murder. No, well, plus that's also, it just turns into, like, a bit of a horror scene for a second. But then I noticed that Metal Gear Solid often likes to reference itself, primarily Metal Gear Solid 1, throughout the series. Because even in Metal Gear Solid 2, even though it's not that much later, they're just like, remember this? Remember this? Is it the ninja? No, it's a vampire, but still.
Yeah, I think they like to kind of lead you into that kind of stuff. But I always love that battle, too, where he's just punching out Gray Fox and so on. And just running around. And, I mean, you can always do the thing, too, where you throw some chaff grenades down and, like, just dicks with him.
I think it's kind of funny, though, when he's like, can you find me, Snake? Like, dude, you're in one of the same 3 spots. Like, let's play hide and seek. Like, runs over into the corner. Bet you can't find me.
Remember when we did this in Zanzibar land?
Only it was in a minefield.
And then I hid on a mine and you couldn't find me.
Fun time, Snake. Now punch me more. Look me in the eye when you punch me. Spit on me if you have to.
This is how I
Call
remember.
Call me dirty.
Just like us, like, yes, the nerd can watch us fight. If he wants to jerk off, it's okay too. I give him written permission.
If he wants to piss in the corner while we do this too. Hideo Kojima has a thing with piss. Cause like, all right, how many? Let's run through it. This one, I don't know about Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 3 though, there's like 3 times or someone like I think when there's the Russian scientist, you have to say if he pisses himself. I want to say actually, you know what? I think someone pisses themselves when they see Vamp in Metal Gear 2.
Yeah, they do.
And Metal Gear 3. And to get it across, like, in case you can't see the pixels, like, spreading around, that it's be darkened, let's just bring up Steam, because it's always cold. And then there's the part in Metal Gear 3 when they're interrogating Big Boss, and he beats himself to the point where he pisses himself. So, I'm sure that, like, 4, I don't... Actually, you know what? Truth Bomb, Never played 4, but I know the story because I watched the cutscenes like it was a movie. So, yeah.
That's one of those ones, I kid you not, if you ever see a PS3, it is worth just buying a PS3, and if you bought no other game, that game would be worth it.
I guess I was waiting on them to do some kind of remastered for PS4, but why the fuck they haven't done that? I don't know. Like, not like Konami's doing anything right now other than make like fucking Coleco machines.
Yeah, it's like Coleco machines. You mean because Coleco's that's that other console. Fuck it. Pachinko.
Pachinko, yeah, Pachinko.
But yeah, it's. I was kind of wondering too, and it's like I wonder because I know if the PS3 it did have. They always talk about there's just certain things with that cell, processor and so on that it had that made it hard to like make games for other stuff. Because even like Xbox 360, once they started making all the ports, I'm like, why don't they just make like a 4-disc version of like Metal Gear Solid 4 if that's what it needs to be or something like that? And that never came out.
Because I was just kept on expecting them to come out with some kind of remake for it or something. But yeah, I haven't seen. I'm surprised that hasn't happened because they had a bunch of remakes for it. They had like a collection for Metal Gear Solid 3 up to that point, of Metal Gear Solid 4 up to that point, if we could play all the Metal Gear games on PS4, even number one PS1 version. So I was like, okay, I guess we'll get there with the next one too. Nope, not the case. So
I know because on Xbox 3 or on Xbox One, you could play. They got Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 on there now.
Yeah. So no.
But yeah, but I will say though, because it's one of those ones I think you can pick up a PS3 nowadays for like under $100, and you can pick up Metal Gear Solid for like $5. It's one of those ones like if you just look at it like it's pretty much almost just the price of like a deluxe version of a new game nowadays. That's the one because that was the main reason I bought a PS3. It was just for that game and that game alone. If that was the only thing I ever got, granted there's other great games for PS3, I was satisfied.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is I'm sure it is a great game, and I bet it probably would still hold up just fine. Metal Gear 5 was one of those games where it was great gameplay, but it just felt like a really glorified tech demo at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's always the sad part about that game, because it's one of those ones where it's like the gameplay and it's pure amazing. It's just there's all those other things that kind of hinder the
world is so empty.
Yeah, it's just one of those goofy things, but I don't know. Not like Metal Gear Solid 1 that's always kind of fun, yet it can be a little bit frustrating. I don't know.
It's well, it's like I said, it's one of those, or like we said actually, it's just one of those things that came out when it did, and they're still kind of like, I guess it's interesting about PlayStation 1. PlayStation 1, they're still kind of learning. PlayStation 1's and Nintendo 64, they're still kind of learning how to make games in a 3D space, where PlayStation 2 and GameCube and Xbox, by then they figured it out.
Well, and I think that's why I love PlayStation 1 so much, is because I love I almost kind of miss that nowadays, because sadly enough, it's like, how like nowadays just about every single game looks the same pretty much at the end of the day. Like they all look the same, they all kind of move the same. Like there'll be a brand new game that comes out, and to me it almost just looks like I've been there, done that, which I love in PlayStation 1 and even with N64 and so on, is it was almost like everybody was making their own engines and they weren't sharing all the same stuff. And, everybody kind of had a different idea of like what might be the best way to go about doing something. And maybe an idea was great, maybe an idea was bad, but it made games all look very different and unique to each other. And that's something I kind of miss nowadays, because everything nowadays is like, you expect that you move around and then you got the right joystick to move the camera around, and it all kind of gives it that very similar look. Like, you don't get camera angles, you don't get kind of like different setups and different types of engines and so on. And, they're always like, it's kind of like when you see something with the Unreal Engine. It's like, I remember like first kind of seeing that Unreal Engine being used quite a bit. And it was like, I remember, playing Gears of War and then playing Batman. I'm like, you know what? Batman just feels like it kind of moves like Gears of War does, It's just that same engine and so on.
Yeah, no, I get you. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, but we didn't talk about was,
Liquid?
Not Liquid. Well, we'll get to that one, but just drew a blank on his name. He's in
Colonel Campbell.
He's in the tank, and then you got to battle in the second.
Oh, Raven.
Yeah, Vulcan Raven.
Yeah, he's just kind of like he's probably the more simpler of all the main. Oh, I guess the most simplest is Octopus, because he dies when you get a chance to even fucking know him. But Raven is probably the most simplest one, because he's like, it is for the heat of battle. And one of those guys is just like, He's pretty easy to beat, actually. He's probably, you think being a boss that far ahead, he'd be hard, but no, he's like one of the easiest guys to beat.
What'd you do to defeat him?
Just fucking rocketed him, like rocket launcher, or Nikited him.
Because this is the way that I've always done it. Is I put the Claymore mines up all over the place and just have him run into those, and then I just go wait in the corner, and mostly just killing himself in the process.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, this is a warrior's battle, and like, you know, just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna play with my remote control toy over here. Boom.
Well, I just think it's kind of funny too. It's like, yeah, he wants this warrior's battle, and like, it's like I just go leave a bunch of fucking landmines down for him to step on.
Well, he's almost seems kind of like a comical character to some extent, because he's just like, we are quite good at the ear pulling contest here in Alaska. You know, like, all right, well, funny to bring that up. I don't know why you brought that up. I mean, are we gonna fight, or what are we doing here?
Well, I also like too, like when he's like when he's talking about, he's like, have you ever heard of the Eskimo Olympics? He's like, yeah. He's like, I bet you're a champ at the eating contest. I am, but that's not the point.
I carry all 8 medals with me!
Just pulls them out, like, look at them! They're shiny and shimmery. Here, you can hold one, because I like you, before I kill you.
Bask upon its glory, before you feast upon death!
And don't you dare shoot my crows while they try to land on the elevator.
Oh, I did, just because I knew it would piss him off.
I don't know, there's something glorious about just shooting them. It's just like
fuck your crows, bam, bam,
plus this
bam.
elevator ride is...
You killed my friends! They are not scavengers! They just returned to life! Like, alright, bro, whatever.
Yeah, I get it. You love crows, that's why you tattooed one on your forehead.
I get it. It's just the whole thing, like, they are my friends, that's why they eat me. I'm like, alright, cool.
But they'll leave my minigun behind.
They've tried to they can't digest that. I know, you don't have to explain to me why. It's just... They devoured his clothing, though. They gotta give him credit for that.
Yeah, well, I guess he just had pants on. Did he have a shirt on? Can't remember.
No, he didn't, but still. The boots.
Yeah, they went to town on those.
Yeah. They had to get shoelaces at some point. But no, that character, he's probably the more simpler of the villains, and I think he's fine. He's literally the tank character, and yeah, I think he works for that. I think that Metal Gear Solid, this one has the best villains, because that's the thing. The Rogues Gallery is always this crazy team of just like, who's this guy? Who's that guy? And I think that's one of the things about number 5. Number 5 didn't really have that, did it?
There was like 2 of them, and that was it. It was like, oh, okay.
You had the guy with the fucked up, like, ghost face. Mm-hmm. You had Quiet, then she joins you. And then what? You have, like, Baby Liquid, or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I love how Baby Liquid just takes off in the fucking Metal Gear. Just like, see you bitches later! It's like, oh,
this is mine.
He's like, oh, I'm taking these black kids. They are my slaves. Like, oh, geez, Liquid. Yeah, well, I'm the bad guy. Fuck you. I'm 10 years old.
Yeah, he's very hateable when he's a child. When he grows up, like, oh no, he's cool. He's just a Bruce Willis villain. He feels like he's somebody that he could be fighting in Die Hard or something.
That's kind of how it is. Well, I like too. It's like, because I kind of forgot like what they're like exactly getting. He's like, oh, I want $1 billion. It's like, $1 billion? It's like, yes, $1 billion. Then I can start everything I've always wanted to do.
He just has like a flashback, like, I'm just gonna make the world's biggest Chuck E. Cheese because I didn't have a childhood.
Yes, I mean, I had slaves as a kid, but that's not a normal childhood. A slave isn't a real friend. You know, they act like they're your friends, but if you go to sleep, you gotta make sure you keep one eye open.
I want the world's biggest Chuck E. Cheese, but I'm the only one allowed in.
I want glass walls that are bulletproof, so all those slave children that grew up with me can watch me as I play all the amusement rides in there and play all the arcades to myself.
I still want, even though it's a 2-player game, keep it 2 players, but no one else could ever play the Jurassic Park Lost World game with me.
No, that's how, it's same with Time Crisis. I only want the computer player to be my second person with me.
Make the ballroom as big as an auditorium. Make it grand. But make it only for me.
But I just like, it's like, that's really like Liquid. He just wants like, I want $1 billion and I want to make sure that everybody knows that we have the best nuclear weapons.
He said like, should we give like family discounts to anybody who comes in? He's like, what did you say?
The only family I have is my brother, who is the superior one to me, though he'll learn later on that, I'm the superior one.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They make it out to be. They're like, it's like, do you know what it's like to know your whole life you're nothing but trash? A mistake. And then he's just like, dude, you were the... I don't know where it got... Did, like, Revolver Ocelot give him false information or someone... I'm just trying to figure out where he thought that he was the fuck-up.
See, and that was the thing that I thought that Metal Gear Solid 5 was going to be all about, was kind of explaining all that shit, and then it's just like, oh... We never really got to that, like, boy... Because I expected, like, the boyhood rivalry of, like... Somehow, some way, or whatever the heck they were going to do to show, Snake and Liquid. I guess obviously they didn't meet yet, maybe. Or maybe they did, and there's just some weird reason why he forgot.
Didn't realize they were there or something.
Yeah.
Well, it's also one of those things with Snake and Liquid, or not even that. Shit, what was I going to say? It was regarding the prequel. Fuck, I just totally drew a blank. Well, something about, oh yeah, I remember. The thing about number 5, though, is it's not even that you're playing as Big Boss. You're playing as... It's explaining, because, the first Metal Gear... I think the first Metal Gear, or not the first, but one of the Metal Gear games where you actually kill Big Boss. You realize, oh, this is how you killed Big Boss, because it wasn't really Big Boss. It was this guy from number 5.
You mean like in Metal Gear 2?
Yeah, because you kill Big Boss in that game.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things like, okay, so that wasn't big, because, it comes in at the end of Metal Gear 4. It's like, okay, this wasn't Big Boss you killed. You killed Cursed or Poison Snake from Metal Gear 5 or whatever.
Yeah, they switched it around somehow there, which is always kind of like, oh, okay.
So it's like, okay, so he forced you into this life so you could be the boss and died in a game later. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's even like where like... That ties in with, like, the Naomi character, which I always think is kind of a neat scene where they like, oh, shit, this Naomi character, she's the one who's been, like, fucking everything up. And then, like, she calls, she's like, well, yeah, I have been fucking up, but let me tell you why.
Just like all the cops, like the idea of all the cops there, they're about to, like, all the FBI agents are about to arrest her. Like, no, guys, pull up a chair, it's gonna be a minute.
Yeah.
And they'll just sit there, they listen around, just holding a pair of handcuffs. Like, let's give her a minute to talk. And it's like a 20-minute codec conversation. They're only hearing one side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of coming through. Because that's the thing about codec. Like, the way I always kind of feel it, like, Howie's just kind of wanted this my whole life. Is like, when Snake talks, like, does he have to talk out loud for that codec to work, or does he almost have to like think and like that, like that's as loud as he needs to really speak?
I don't know. It's never really that clear. It's never clear if it's actually like a walkie-talkie thing. So that was one of those things like it's like a little like radio inside your earbud or something like that. But then they're never really too clear if, because does that mean is everybody just a telepath in that like operating room, or is everyone just surrounding a computer talking to Snake? I don't know. Their mouths move, so I'm assuming maybe they're like whispering or some shit.
Well, yeah, because I just noticed because like you pull up that codec like anywhere. Doesn't make a difference. There'd be a guy standing there with a gun to your face, like, hold on a second, I gotta take this.
Yeah, well, I guess it makes multitasking easier. But, no. Once again, though, I think this game is really important because it got the ball rolling and actually set a new standard for stealth games, too. Or actually maybe created more of the genre more than anything else.
Yeah, but because it's like, in a sense, like, you had Metal Gear 1 and 2. I mean, you had 1 on the regular Nintendo, but you never got 2 until much later because they just didn't release in the US. Which that's also another game that, like, almost, like, nobody's fucking played Metal Gear 2, but that one is so fucking good. And it's like, you get it on the Subsistence collection for Metal Gear Solid 3, and it's just so neat.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. No, I'm going to still, even though I was kind of sitting here and complaining about parts of the game and like the design.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you play this one, I want to say this: if you can play Twin Snakes, I mean it's gonna be kind of hard because that game's like $100 now on eBay.
Yeah, you got to have a GameCube. It's like there's only one way to really get it.
But yeah, if you can play Twin Snakes, and if you can't play Twin Snakes, go ahead and try and play this one because even though it might be a little frustrating, it is a good time. It is a good little like time travel back to history.
Yeah, because it's one of those ones. At the end of the day, like I still think it, like to me, it still holds up pretty well for the most part. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's like, because for me, I don't know. A lot of these PlayStation One games, I'm just so used to them still because I'm always playing them that it doesn't like they don't like phase me as much as I think they phase some people. Because I know some people can't even handle camera angles and they can't handle stuff like that. There's just some things in this game. I just remember like it was like the liquid battle. Like once you kind of get towards the end and you're battling in like the Metal Gear, I'm like, dude, I don't remember this being so hard. I remember it used to be like you throw a chaff grenade, then you shoot like a Stinger missile at him, but it's like, shit, you screwed. It's like I felt like the timing of it was like not even there. It was like I'm always getting fucking shot, and I'm just if I get lucky, I won't get shot enough, and I'll make it through. And then the second part wasn't as bad, but it was still, it's like you just got to get right between his legs and wait for that part, and then you're kind of golden. But if you can't get between his legs, he's shooting you with that stupid laser and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I always get to the point, I'm like, dude, I do not remember this being this fucking hard. Like, what the hell? It's like,
Well, it's weird because I remember so many parts of Metal Gear Solid 2 just being, when you're fighting like 3 Rexes at once, I remember that being relatively easy. So knowing the first one, and just like when there's, just one of them, like, why is this one so much harder?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know what it was. It's like that. And then even like the battle on top of fucking Liquid where you have to like punch him and everything like that part, was like way too frustratingly hard. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, it's that kind of weird thing that like I never remember this back in the day as a kid, but maybe it was like playing it back then, you just kind of like did it and you didn't question it nearly as much. I don't know,
I honestly think when I was a kid, because I can think back of games I was good at as a kid, and I tried playing recently, I'm just not as good. I remember playing Devil May Cry 1 for the first time and just slaying, and now just being like dying on like the 3rd level or like on a boss, like now just being, God, I'm not nearly as good as I used to be. What the fuck happened,
Well, I think it's also too, it's like once you start switching different kind of games and genres, that in itself I think also affects it a lot too. It's not necessarily just like because I think it's like it's not attributed to being like, oh, I'm just maybe not nearly as good at this certain thing. It's like no, I think it's like literally like you kind of move on and then you learn other skills, and then these skills that you built up at one time period for this style of game just aren't there. Just like the nuances of like how to like really dial in that original Metal Gear Solid feeling. But well, Liquid, it's just that last boss battle where you're on top, or I guess not technically the last, there's one more after that, but that one where you're like fighting him barefisted, it's just like. I think the thing about that one is like I just do not remember being that frustrating on Twin Snakes, but it's just like because you like punch him and then like sometimes he turns invisible right as you're throwing your other punch. Well, that just leaves you fucking open to get kicked because now you can just throw his fucking punches like while he's invisible.
Yeah,
like
she has a little like
that kind of stuff. Sometimes is kind of annoying. I mean, I know that's kind of like how all the Metal Gear Solid bosses work. So I guess it's just made so you don't just fucking unload on them, but. But still, it's like sometimes like I feel for a hand-to-hand combat, it's kind of annoying.
No, well, I guess especially when it's a hand-to-hand focused like battle, and it's definitely not a hand-to-hand focused game. I guess that's like, all right, how are we gonna do this? I guess we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's weird. It works for Gray Fox. It works totally fine. But I remember as I get into Liquid, it's like, dude, what the hell? But no, it's still like I've been really wanting to sit down and play the original Metal Gear Solid again, anyways, because it's just been so long, and just to kind of go through it and. The nice thing about Twin Snakes is what I like, and like almost like those remakes of that time period, is that all they did was they just took a game that was already amazing, and then they hardcore remade it, but they didn't change it. I think that's what makes Twin Snakes so good. Is it's like they didn't try to like, oh, what if we just like change the story around a bit, or what if we add this character in here that wasn't really there before? Like no, they're like, fuck that. It's going to be exactly the same. Kind of the same way they did for Resident Evil. I mean, Resident Evil adds like, maybe a handful of little rooms and stuff like that, but it's still the exact same Resident Evil 1 story. And then there's also like the Tomb Raider remake that they did, where they keep it pretty much the exact same game, and it's like, I like that. I wish they would still do that more often, you know what I mean? Because too many things nowadays, they feel like, oh, we got to change it so it's like a new game. It's like, people don't want a new game. It's like, it's kind of like when you look at that Final Fantasy VII remake. It's like, who the fuck are you making that for? You clearly aren't making that for Final Fantasy VII fans.
I think that's probably made for people who seen Cloud their whole life and hear us old timers talk about Final Fantasy VII, but then they're just like, you know what, we got to reach it out to the new people. So I think that's kind of, and like the old people get it just out of curiosity. So I think that's what they're banking on there.
Yeah, and it's just like one of those ones, like it's like, I just feel like if you're gonna make a remake, do it like the Twin Snakes, where it's like, dude, it's literally the same game. We'll add a little bit more bells and whistles features in there, make the game look nice and pretty, but at the end of the day, we're not gonna like change it on you.
Well, I'll say this about the 7 remake. One of the things that doesn't have me super excited for that, it's not even so much the gameplay difference, even though I'd still prefer a turn-based game. It's not even so much that. It's more of they're doing that episodic, like, monthly thing. It's like, fuck you. That says you don't really even believe in this thing. Fuck off. Make a real,
Yep.
like, make it a real $60 game. Don't do this, like, 2-hour, 3-hour episodic bullshit every other month.
Well, and that to me, that's like, no. That episodic thing, that's fine if you're like an independent company and it's almost like you're selling it like a comic book for like, an issue here and there because you can't do the full graphic novel at once. I feel like if you're a big company, it's like bullshit. You don't get to do the episodic thing. I'm sorry. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
anyway, check out Metal Gear Solid 1 if you never played it before.
Yeah, always a fun game. You can get it on all kinds of good stuff. But we'll put some kinds of fun Metal Gear Solid links in there in the description. So if you want to help support the podcast and get some more kind of fun stuff in that category, go right ahead. But till then, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, comics, movies, all that fun stuff. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks again for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Sure, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, animation, and a whole lot more. We also have the Old Man Orange blog going with all kinds of fun stuff. If you easily want to support the show, use one of our Amazon links either on the website or in the description of the podcast below. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show either on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Newgrounds, or anywhere else that you seem to get this podcast from. Grab the sitcom-styled comic book Pizza Boys on either Comix Central, Comixology, or Amazon. Want more podcasts? Check out the Indie Comics Club over at Comix Central. I also got a workout website called Thor's Hidden Gym, filled with fitness tips and tricks, videos, and a whole lot more fun stuff in the calisthenics world. Talk to us on Twitter at Spencer S. Holmes and Dunigan Ryan. Like our Facebook pages of Old Man Orange Productions and Pizza Boys Comic. Thanks again, we're out of here.